All right, 13.3, we're going to be talking about energy flow, although it's not quite the same as the energy we see going on in the sky here. We're going to be looking more along the lines of chemical energy and how energy is transferred from one organism to the next. So, to start with, a few true or false review questions. You do have these in here. Obviously, you're not being graded on these. This is more or less just answer these right now, see what you know right now, and then at the end of this, come back and double check your answers. Are they correct, or are there any that you want to change? So at this point, pause the video for a few moments, answer these questions as being true or false, and then you can proceed. There are 3 key points for this particular discussion, and I understand this picture might make it a little difficult to see, but bear with me here. The first key point is that life's main source of energy is sunlight. So what would happen to life on our planet without sunlight? Well, we'd have a major mass extinction. The second key point, chemical energy is an alternative source for some organisms, meaning that some organisms can get energy from chemicals rather than from sunlight. And the third key point, energy flows in one direction in an ecosystem. And we're going to look at that direction here shortly. Here we're looking at producers. Producers are also known as autotrophs. And you should be aware that both of these words are vocabulary words. I would expect you to know both. What are they? They're organisms that can create their own food. And the way they create their own food can be done through one of 2 processes. We talked about that with the key points. Some organisms use sunlight to create their own food, and some organisms use chemicals to create their own food. And then there's some organisms like us that can't create food from either. So we're going to look at that as well. Some examples of autotrophs would be any type of plant. Let's check them out. Here we see a picture of a plant. Now, what can plants do with that sunlight? What can they do with that energy? Plants can use the energy from sunlight to produce sugars, which plants use for their form of food. This is through a process that we talked about previously called photosynthesis. So let's go back here, and now let's check out what living things can do with chemicals. It's a process very, very similar to photosynthesis, but this process is called chemosynthesis. So chemo for chemicals. They're using chemical energy to produce sugars. Most of these chemosynthetic organisms would be very, very small, microscopic bacteria. Organisms that can withstand these scalding temperatures like we would have if we were right next to Old Faithful, or if we were down the chamber of that volcano. Very, very hot, but bacteria can withstand some of that. And if you've ever been near either of these, you would definitely smell rotten egg in the air. That rotten egg is in the form of this gas that's escaping, and it's produced by sulfur. In these environments, inside Old Faithful and down that volcano shaft, there is next to 0 oxygen. In that case, it's anaerobic. Anaerobic, an meaning without, so without oxygen. So obviously plants couldn't survive down in there because, well, no sunlight. But some bacteria can, and they can do that without oxygen. And they do that by taking in the chemicals from the sulfuric gas, and they can use that to actually make their own food. But what about the living things that cannot make their own food, like us? Well, we are called consumers. Consumers are also known as heterotrophs. Once again, both of those are vocabulary words. I'd expect you to know both. Consumers usually rely on those producers as their form of energy, All right, so we'll eat plants and form a food chain, which we'll be looking at in the next section. So we must obtain our energy from other organisms. And there's a variety of classifications of heterotrophs. There's herbivores, which are organisms that eat plants, carnivores, which eat other animals, omnivores, which would be us. We eat other animals, but we also eat plants. There's detritivores, who feed on dead organic material, like those worms that crawl through people's bodies after they're buried underground after they die. And then there's decomposers, who feed on decomposing material also in the soil. So these two occur in the soil. And we'll finish this section by looking at this brief video.
Hey, lucky man, can you give a bite to me? If I tell you something about pizza and food, would you give a piece? Okay, tell me, do you know where all food comes from? Wow, you are right. We humans get all our food from animals and plants. Let me tell you more about food. Plants are only living species who make their own food. They use sunlight, carbon dioxide from air, and water from soil to make their food. This process is called photosynthesis. So now you know plants make their own food. All other species, like animals and we humans, are dependent on plants. Now see, a giraffe is coming. It is eating the plant. Species who only eat plant are called herbivores. Oh, what is happening? A lion is coming. Oh, it is attacking the giraffe. Oh, it has killed the giraffe and is eating it. Species which eat other animals are called carnivores. So you have seen plants make their own food. Other animals eat plants, and some other animals eat those animals who eat plants. So all are dependent on plants. This is also called food chain. It starts from plants. In food chain, plants are known as producers as they produce food. The species who eat plants are called primary consumers, and the species who eat species dependent on plants are called secondary consumers. Now, there is one more part of this food chain. These are fungi and bacteria in soil. When animals die, these fungi and bacteria in soil decompose their dead bodies. They become nutrients. These nutrients again are used by plants to make food. See here, when lion dies, its body is decomposed in soil by bacteria and fungi, and it turns into nutrients. Then, these are again used by plants. These fungi and bacteria are called decomposers. Decomposers are an important part of food chain. Let us see other food chain. Here, rat eats acorns fruit, which comes from plant, and snake eats rats. Eagle eats rat. Eagle dies. It gets decomposed, and plants use decomposed nutrients to produce fruit. The food chains which we saw, which have one producer, one primary consumer, and one secondary consumer, are called simple food chains. Actually, life is not so simple. Look at this picture. This is very complex. Look at the rat. It can be eaten by cat also, or it may be eaten by snake. Plant can be eaten by goat or by rabbit. These kind of complex food chains are called food web, as they are very interconnected, like a spider web. So now you know a lot about food, food chain, and food web. Now can you give me a piece? Thank you. I was so tired and hungry. I wanted energy to continue. Do you know why we need food? Okay. You know we need food to get energy. Energy is required by living being for growth, also for movement. We need energy. Similarly, when species reproduce, they need energy. Also, as grow up or grow old, our old tissues get damaged or new cells are produced. This process also needs energy. Now, from where this energy come from? Most of the living species use sun's energy. This energy is transferred to body via food they eat. Sun gives light energy, which is used by plants to make their food by photosynthesis. These plants are eaten by primary consumers and energy is transferred to them. Now secondary consumers eat these primary consumers and energy is transferred to them too. So does giraffe get all the energy from plant which plant gets from sun? Or does lion gets all energy from giraffe which giraffe gets from plant? The answer is no. Actually, 90% energy is lost when it passes from one part of chain to other. Like 90% energy is lost when giraffe eats plant. Similarly, 90% energy is lost between lion and giraffe. Look at this pyramid. It is called energy pyramid. This shows that energy available becomes lesser and lesser as we move on the top of food chain. To understand energy pyramid, let's assume plants absorb 1,000 units of energy from sun. When giraffe eats it, 90% energy is lost, so giraffe only gets 10% of energy. This means energy transfer from plant to giraffe is 105 of 1,000 units of plant energy, which is 100 units. Now when lion eats giraffe, 90% energy is again lost, and lion gets only 10 units of energy. So now you know more about food and energy. Can you give me one more bite? Please give me one more bite. You already have so much energy. I need more food to get more energy. Sorry, man.
And that concludes 13.3. Make sure you have those notes filled in.